Although I am very high on copium about Gojo returning to life in Jujutsu Kaisen, but in my very honest opinion, Satoru Gojo was a huge failure, which can be seen as totally subjective, but I will try to be as objective as I can throughout this video. Before starting this tragic story of Satoru Gojo, please note that I am a huge Gojo supporter and I was very disappointed by Gojo's death in the hands of Sukuna. I would call it lazy writing considering how powerful Gojo was and the hype surrounding him. Although the fight against Sukuna was very well executed and fun to read and can't wait for it to be animated, I still think it could have ended much better. Let's start with how Gojo lost to almost all the main villains he fought, except maybe Hanami and Jogo. Given his confidence in his power, one would think he would hide if almost anyone except Sukuna. Also, I would like to add that it's not entirely Gojo's mistake because Gege has been consistently downhill since Shibuya ended. He wrote the character, but the Gojo that fought Sukuna is not the same Gojo from the beginning of the series we all knew. His ending was half-assed and he and the Six Eyes was hugely disrespected. When you think about it, Satoru Gojo only had 4 narrative enemies. First one being Toji, who physically defeated Gojo, an adversarial force that is his stark contrast. Gojo, as the pinnacle of Jujutsu in a mission he genuinely cared about, was put up against someone with no cursed energy who technically initially defeated him. Toji killed Riko, failing his mission as well. So it's still somewhat of a loss to Gojo in the end. Even though Gojo eventually overcame Toji after his awakening, the impact Toji had on Gojo would even come back to him during the Sukuna fight, when Gojo thought of his possible defeat. On second comes Gato, who gave Gojo an emotional defeat. Gato, after his return, was supposed to be a villain for Gojo to take down. Now, even though Gato never defeated Gojo in a strength contest, Gojo lost in the attempt to reason with or redeem Gato. The fact that Gojo wasn't able to do anything about Gato's downfall is arguably one of Gojo's greatest pain and defeat. Having to kill Gato in the end only compounds that pain. Some people do blame Gojo for Gato's downfall, saying he wasn't there for his best friend when he was at his lowest. He was there and he didn't fail to notice. He asked Gato if something is wrong and Gato answered that everything is fine. Objectively, it wasn't Gojo's fault, but nevertheless, he still blames himself for Gato's downfall. Gato was his best friend. He should have noticed that his friend was going down a dark path and should have been there for him. But yet, Gojo did nothing. Looking from the outside in, this was a tall order. Gojo was constantly busy with missions and of course he couldn't read minds. But yet, Gojo still blames himself even though it was completely unreasonable. On third, we have Kenjaku, where Gojo was defeated psychologically and tactically. Again, one of Gojo's most impactful defeat was handed to him by Kenjaku, who also leveraged on Gojo's weakness, that is Gato. Shibuya might have never really started if Gojo didn't lose the way, and he might not have later perished at the hands of Sukuna. Fourth and final defeat to Sukuna, which is a mix of physical, psychological and tactical defeat. His defeat to Sukuna was arguably the culmination of all his prior defeats. This is where Gojo failed at every single one of his objectives. He lost in a battle of Jujutsu, attempting and failing to save Megumi and the world, knowing that Sukuna will continue his rampage and Kenjaku, the man stealing his best friend's body, is still around. In retrospect, Gojo's wins were against Jogo and Hanami, but they weren't necessarily his narrative villains. He failed to save Riko, Gato, Megumi and his students. Every single mission he actually cared about failed, brought about by these villains. Given everything yet unable to do anything, that's one of the beautifully tragic story of Gojo. Gojo is one of the most tragic characters in my opinion. He is a tragic character, but no one, not even himself, realizes how deeply tragic his fate is. At the end of the day, the character at their deathbed has this moment where they realize their own fate, like take Nobara and Nanami for example. At the death's door, they realize their ironic fate. Nobara realizing that she has people who she likes in both her village as well as in the city, and it wasn't so bad in both the cases. Nanami realizing that he shouldn't have taken up Jujutsu again, but at least wanted his junior Itadori to not feel regretful about what he thinks. Both of them realize the truth of their life, but Gojo, he doesn't, and just brushes all of these off cheerfully. There is no catharsis or any moment of his life reflection as cruel tragedy, although it is one of the reasons why I think his life is not finished, but if it really is, it just makes it more tragic. Not only does he not realize the tragedy of it all, but he completely neglects his own students to praise the guy that just killed him. as if his only real motivation wasn't to adequately prepare his students to survive or learn anything meaningful about developing as sorcerers, or to stand in direct opposition to Geto's fixation on exterminating the weak. Rather, it was actually to just killed by someone stronger than him. That's it. It's like he learned nothing. At every turn, when he could have grown and understood literally anything impactful about his own unrealized potential or sense of purpose as it is pertained to those he cared about, he aggressively avoided it as if his very own city was actively preventing him from getting the point. What really annoyed me by this is that it's not that Gojo learned nothing, it's that Gege forgot that Gojo already learned his lesson and tried to backpedal. We saw all the growth Gojo had, and then in his final moments he just reverts. Hopefully Gojo will be back, because if he doesn't come back, I will get very angry at my cat. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.